Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about clarifiers in readings. So I have been basically using clarifiers in my tarot readings since I started reading tarot pretty much. I feel like the people that I learned tarot from, almost all of them exclusively read with clarifiers. So this became a pretty integral part of my personal reading practice right out the gate, to the point where it's very seldom that I don't read with clarifiers. It's only if, the person I'm reading for has asked me to only pull cards from one deck, or they just want a quick message, or if I'm like in a rush and I'm just trying to pull from one deck and I set that intention right out the gate that I'm not going to be using clarifiers. It's something I pretty much always use, and I have a lot of reasons for that I want to share. I'm going to go through kind of some examples for you in this video, and you're wanting to understand what is a clarifier, when should I use it, how should I use it, all those sorts of things. That's what this video is going to tackle today. So if you're interested, keep watching and let's get into it. So starting things off really simple here, what is a clarifier? Or what are clarifiers, should I say? So clarifiers are cards that you pull from a second deck on top of cards you pulled from a previous deck to give an added layer of understanding and clarity to the initial card. It helps give me more context to the first card, basically. What I typically find is that one card on its own, though it's going to give you a lot of information, I just like that added layer of context, of clarity, of deeper understanding to the reasoning, maybe even just a card coming up in a specific place in a reading. Maybe on its own, it's kind of hard to understand the context, but with a clarifier on top of it, having those two cards basically talking to one another adds a whole other layer of understanding to a reading. So what I want to do is I want to give you an example of how clarifiers work. I feel like rather than just talking about it or talking at you about it, I think it's best to just sort of jump into an example for you, and then we can kind of elaborate further off of how to use this, when to use it, that sort of thing. We'll go into all of that. Okay, so I want to show you one card with one clarifier. I feel like that's when, especially for teaching purposes, it's going to become a little more clear why this is so valuable if I'm just showing you one card. Not an actual reading here, just showing an example. We have the Page of Pentacles, okay? So the Page of Pentacles on his own is bringing information. He's also a younger, more inexperienced energy, and he's bringing information that regards to pentacles, which relate to the here and now, the material world, the element of earth. So this could be news relating to a new job. This could be news relating to your finances, some sort of information. But just this card on its own here, without any context, we're going, okay, what is the information the page is bringing? We don't have anything else to go off of. Let's see if we put a card on top of it, can we get some clarity to what this is talking about? What information? So if we were to get the Page of Pentacles and then have the Four of Sky come on top of it, Four of Sky being Four of Swords. So Four of Swords traditionally being a reminder to rest. It's about mental exhaustion. If we look at this card, we do get that feeling that is of the traditional energy. These dogs are all kind of retreating, they're resting. This one looks like he's been wounded. He has some bandages on his paws, and this other dog is licking him, trying to help heal him. And we have these other dogs that are just kind of, he looks like he's standing guard and he's trying to eat. They're kind of retreating. You feel as the skies are gray and kind of cloudy. They're trying to retreat, they're trying to rest, maybe trying to regain their strength and recuperate from whatever, maybe they were just in some sort of a battle. That's what you see here. Put that on top of the Page of Pentacles. Okay, so perhaps some good information is coming in relation to something you've been struggling with. So maybe you've been going through a lot of hard work, a really challenging time at work that's been difficult for you, that's caused you to feel kind of drained and strained. Well, perhaps there's some good information coming in relation to that. Again, we could just look at this and say, okay, there's some good news coming in, what's going on in your life, and go off of that. But with this here, you have more context. Does that make sense? I hope this is making sense. So I want to show you with two RWS decks now as well, because I feel like that will be helpful. And I also want to show you with an oracle deck as well. Okay, so now showing you an example with two RWS decks here. Okay, so another example here. Two of Wands, okay? And then we'll do a little Radiant Wise Spirit here. Okay, and then we have the Seven of Wands on top of it, right? So the Two of Wands on its own, if we didn't have this card here, is this feeling of expansion, of possibility, of having the world at your fingertips. He's holding the globe and this globe in his hand, so suggesting he has all of these opportunities, all these places he can go, all these things he can do, and he's looking out onto the horizon, kind of with this energy of I can go anywhere I want. There's even this energy with this card of having all those possibilities, but choosing to stay precisely where you are, right? So those are all possibilities with this card. Now, again, we don't have any context we're going off of. Maybe that would help you in a reading. I'm sure it would. But adding a clarifier on top of it, Seven of Wands. Okay, so Seven of Wands is all about defending something, protecting something, standing up for what is right. And there's kind of a bit of a fight and there's hard work involved. And that's all Seven of Wands energy. So putting that on top of the Two of Wands really changes things, doesn't it? Because there's this expansive energy of being able to go anywhere you want to go, but perhaps you feel you have to really defend your position in wherever it is you choose to go. Perhaps you feel that though you have all of these options before you of where you can go, you feel like people are trying to put up a fight to what you really want, right? But without this, you wouldn't have that context. It's just one of the reasons why I like working with clarifiers, because I feel like you get this additional understanding of why a card is there. So I want to show you working with an oracle as well. Now, you could certainly do a clarifier, like one tarot card and just one oracle card on top of it as a clarifier, or you could do two tarot decks and then an oracle card on top of that. I'll get into how many I use and all of that in just a moment, but I'll just show you this example first, okay? So, Five of Cups, a sort of sorrowful energy, crying over spilt milk, whatever you want to look at that as, and those cups that spilled there. And then on top of that, clarifier, Nine of Wands. So you have this fear, you know, through everything you've been through to get to the point you are at, you're afraid to move forward. So perhaps you're afraid to move on from this feeling you have within. You know, you have suffered a loss of some sort. The thing with this card is that all you have to do is turn around and see these two cups here, and you will see that the universe is always providing for you. It's a reminder that the universe always has your back, is always there for you, and always providing even in these challenging times. But the reasoning, perhaps the why for fixating on these spilled cups, is because you've been through a lot. You've worked hard to get to where you are, or maybe there's been a long journey through whatever it is that you've suffered through, and you're afraid to move forward from it. Sometimes sorrow, sometimes hurt, loss is a difficult thing to move forward from. At least I've gotten to this point. If I try to move forward, I fear I might lose whatever it is I've gained in the process. This is a very interesting way these two cards are talking to one another here, right? And so then let's take an oracle card and add an oracle message on top of that. This is the Sacred Forest Oracle, if you're wondering. And let's see an oracle message on top of this, okay? Willow Spirit, flexibility, okay? So we're not going to look through the book and all of that. We're just going to go based off of what's coming up in the card. So we have flexibility coming up here. That's interesting. It's telling you be flexible. Perhaps be flexible with yourself. Be understanding of yourself. There is this feeling that you are sort of wanting to stand still where you are. You're wanting to hold strong, right? He's holding onto that wand and he's not wanting to budge. Be flexible. Isn't that interesting how this adds an added layer to the message of, okay, you're feeling this. Perhaps this is why you're feeling this way. But maybe what you need to do is be a little more flexible with yourself, understanding with yourself, willing to allow yourself to perhaps feel what you need to feel, but also not be so rigid, right? All of these cards are talking to one another. There's a link between them that you can find intuitively or just through the understanding of the messages, just looking at the imagery in the cards. There's lots of things you can pull to weave them all together. I hope these examples have shown you kind of what I mean, right? So this is the three cards. I can also show you just with one tarot deck and one oracle card. I just want to give you examples so you can see the different ways this can show up in a reading. So here we have the Lovers, and then let's go into that Oracle deck again, and let's use this as a clarifier. Here we have Earth Spirit, stability, okay? These two immediately, I see a link between them, right? So we have the Lovers. It's this beautiful union, this partnership, perhaps a big impactful relationship in your life. This is one of those big deal relationships in your life. Could be the relationship growing and moving in the right direction. And perhaps you're finding a feeling of stability you've never had before in a relationship, in this relationship. Do you see how these two cards so clearly link to one another? You have these key words here. Oracle cards are really great to put on top of cards as clarifiers to a message, because a lot of times, not all Oracle decks, but a lot of them will have little key terms like this that will really jump out at you, and that will help you further understand the message of the first card. So I hope you find that to be helpful, but this is a great example, in my opinion, of how two cards from different decks can directly speak to one another, and it's easy to layer them to understand a greater message, or add more context to why a card is coming up or what exactly it's speaking to. So yeah, this is a great example of that, I think. So I just want to also touch on a couple maybe like FAQ type of things in relation to reading with clarifiers, things that you might have questions around. So overall, you can use clarifiers in any type of reading of any size, any spread. Just remember, like with tarot, there are no rules. You can create your own spreads, your own systems. You don't have to follow anything you've read in a book in terms of how you pull the cards, if you do clarifiers or not, how many cards are in a spread. You can use spreads you find in books, and you can use clarifiers if you'd like, but ultimately it's your tarot practice. You're the one conducting the reading, and so you can kind of pick and choose, along with the person you're reading for, something that's going to best suit their needs and what it is they're looking for, right? How to use it. So you can lay your first round of cards and you can break them down. So let me show you what I mean. You can lay, let's say you're doing a 3-card spread for someone. They get the Lovers, the Chariot, and Strength. What you want to do is you want to go over all 3 of these cards first, the meanings of them and why, let's say this is a general reading, so you're just kind of giving them general reasons why these cards might be coming up, or let's say it's love life and you're explaining how these cards can relate to their love life. You could go through and explain all of that first and then go in and add clarifiers on top of those. So Queen of Wands, Ace of Wands, and Hanged Man, okay? And then you could go in and explain these cards, how the 2 cards are kind of weaving together and speaking with one another and adding an added layer of clarity. Or you always have the option of just doing it all in one go. So laying these 3 cards down, and before you explain any of this, going and grabbing your other deck and laying these 3 cards down on top of those, and then going and explaining the 2 together. It's really just about preference, maybe how much time you have, the person you're reading for, maybe they have a preference, maybe they want you to start with one deck and then add on top of that and then explain. It's all preference. It's all up to you. I have done both. I find that nowadays the thing I gravitate more towards is laying the clarifiers down as well before I go in and explain everything, because I just feel that having that added context just adds another layer to your explanation, where you're not going to be needing to circle back as much, if that makes any sense. So that's how I use them. But again, I do readings all the time where I do this and then I add these. It's just, or I guess those were like that, but it's just a preference thing. It's however you want to do it. You can really just go off of whatever you're feeling in the moment, or whatever the person you're reading for prefers. You can always ask them. So how many decks should you use? Like how many clarifiers should you use? My personal recommendation is 2 tarot decks, I should specify. I think that anything more than using 2 tarot decks, like one deck on top of the other, can get a little bogged down. Like if we were to take 1 card from this deck, 1 card from this deck, and 1 card from this deck, and they're all tarot decks, it's not that this doesn't work. You can certainly find ways to weave the 3 cards together. I just find that the more you pull clarifiers, the more the message, the root of the message can get kind of lost. I think the 2 together adds the perfect context and clarity needed. And when you add the 3rd, and then maybe you add an oracle, it can start getting a little muddied, right? So I think keeping it to 2 tarot decks is kind of my gold standard. I do add oracles on top of this though. So then you could do an oracle on top of that, and you would be doing 3 clarifiers here. You could do up to 2 oracle cards though, or sorry, you could do up to 2 oracle decks though. And these are, again, my systems, my methods. You may find that this is way too much and you either do these 2 or these 2, or you may find that you like doing, 6 clarifiers. Whatever it is that works for your practice and your methodology of how you like to read, do that. I'm just sharing what works for me and what I've found in reading, for a few years now, and trying different things. Every time I do a reading for myself, even where I do more than 2 clarifiers, I always feel the message gets muddied. I feel like 2 clarifiers, when I'm talking about tarot cards, 2 tarot decks, 1 message and then a clarifier on top of it is kind of the gold standard. When you add that 3rd tarot deck, the message can get a little muddied. I think that oracles, because the message can be a little more, it's just coming from a different perspective. I feel oracle cards add a different energy to a reading, and that's why I feel like I can add, on top of a clarifier, I can add an oracle card as well. I can even add 2 oracle cards if the decks are different enough, and I'm still going to feel like the message isn't getting muddied, it's just adding to the message. When you get too much tarot in here, I feel like that's where the message can get muddied. Or if you're doing too many oracle decks that are, maybe too similar, or even vastly different, it can get kind of like, is this relevant to the message I'm looking for here? I hope that's making sense. But anyways, that is why I use clarifiers, how I use clarifiers. I hope the examples I showed were helpful. Let me know what you think about this. Is this something you use in your personal practice? Is this something that you like to use? I would love to know how you all feel about it. If you're interested in tarot and spirituality, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you join along. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and be well. Bye, guys.